Candace Julian. David Alexander.
Yeah.
Louise Emmanuel.
Yeah.
Jessica Mays.
No.
Victoria Camarada Curto.
No, she's not.
Yesenia Cardona.
Here.
Claudia Coder. Cynthia Cox.
Here.
Wanufi Tess Home. Did I pronounce your name right? Tashoma. Okay. Angel Dowd.
Here.
Helen Foreman Hines. Barbara Sherman. Michelle Peregrine. Rhonda Joseph. Susie Tannenbaum. Shayna Milius. Wayne King.
Present.
Gregory Hamburg.
Here.
Gideon Dunkley. Joseph Pierre. Lachey Young. Claudia Paris. Victor Reyes. Christian Rodriguez. Esma Alossi. Michael Lambert.
Here.
Robert Oliva. Edward Mateo. Ben Gonzalez.
Here.
I got the right one? Yes. Sorry about that. Ariel. Gregory Brender. Linda Walters.
Present.
Okay, thank you everyone, and good evening, and Happy New Year to all of you. Good to see everyone here. We don't have quorum quite yet, so hopefully we'll achieve quorum as the meeting goes on. Because, as I usually do, I don't want to delay the meeting, want to still go through the agenda. So, as what happened in the past, I'll go through some items, but we can't vote as a board to approve items unless we have quorum. So I'm going to skip over the acceptance of the minutes. Hopefully you have all read that. It's in your packet. You have received it in the form of an email. So hopefully we're not going to vote on it. Are there any questions on the minutes from our last meeting? Okay, if not, next up is board correspondence. So just want to acknowledge some people and bear with me. We have a few letters to read, and it's customary to be able to read the letters. First, there are two NAB chairs that I need to recognize as a result of the recent election. NAB chairperson representative from Manhattan, Staten Island is Claudia Perez. And for Region 15 and NDA Brooklyn 14 and 17 representative, Ms. Rhonda Joseph. Are you any NAB chairs here? Hi.
Hi.
No, she's not.
Oh, Eddie.
No, these are the regional reps.
Oh, okay.
There are chairs.
Got it. All right, so next up, the recognition of CAB public sector representatives. Again, I'm going to go through the letters rather quickly, but these are the new public sector representatives for these respective organizations. First up, from the office of Debbie Rose, dear Sir, Madam, as you know, I have appointed Edwina Francis Martin Esquire as my representative at DYCD's Community Advisory Board meetings. When Ms. Martin is unable to attend a full board meeting of the CAB, I designate Ms. Asma Ellen Rousey, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Asma Ellen Rousey. Thank you. Hi, how are you? Thank you. To attend as my representative in her place. Please let me know if you have any questions above. Hopefully you guys can hear me while we go through the mic. From the office of Andy King, please designate Adam Bermudez as my DYCD NABCAB rep and Shauna Melius as my alternate representative. In the spirit of unity, the Honorable Andy King, Council Member for the 12th District of the Bronx. Next up, from the Office of Comptroller, Scott Stringer. I, Scott Stringer, Comptroller of the City of New York, pursuant to the authority vested in me by the New York City Charter, do hereby designate Michael Lambert, or in his absence, Jessica Silva, whose specimen signatures appears below as my representative on the Community Action Board. This appointment supersedes and replaces all prior appointment related to the above functions and shall be effective immediately and remain in effect until revoked. We're going to move that mic. Next up, Dear Commissioner Chong, pursuant to Article 3, Section 1B of the bylaws, New York City Community Action Board, I hereby designate Ms. Michelle Kirkland as my representative on CAB's Board of Directors for an undefined term. Ms. Peregrine will replace Jessica Ackerman. Ms. Peregrine is an employee of the New York City Council. She can be reached at 212-482-2914 or by her email. Thank you for your time and interest regarding this matter. Sincerely, Corey Johnson, Speaker of the New York City Council. And the last letter is, pursuant to the bylaws of the New York City Community Action Board, I am pleased to designate Ms. Wanufi Teshon. I'm sorry. You said that earlier too. I should have been listening. To serve as a second alternate to Harold Miller as first alternate on the Community Action Board. Mr. Shoma and Mr. Miller serve as alternates, when such designation shall be required, to Marco A. Carrion, who represents me in my capacity as the elected official on the CAB. I send my thanks to you for reviewing this Community Action Board designation. Sincerely, Mayor Bill de Blasio. Let's give all these public sector representatives a hand. As I always like to do, I'd like to give each and every one of them that are present here the opportunity to speak and address the board if they do so. Starting with you, Ms. Tashomi, would you like to say anything to the board?
I'm all right.
Okay, good. Ms. Peregrine, I know you're here. Would you like to say anything to address the board?
I am here. Thank you for having me.
Okay.
And I look forward to listening.
Great, thank you. Mr. Lambert?
Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me. Look forward to working for constructive benefit of DYCD.
Great, thank you. Shayna Melius?
Hi.
Hi. Hi, how are you?
Looking forward to learning more about the organization.
Thank you. We appreciate it. I'm going to try. Give me like 2 minutes. I'm sure I'm going to get this right. But would you like to address the board?
Yes, I just want to say thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Okay, thank you. Let's give him a hand again. We thank you and we look forward to your service and we appreciate your acceptance on the part of this body. So as we move along again, if you notice, it should be in your packet, there is a training that's going to be upcoming on parliamentarian procedures. Do we have a date for that meeting?
Yeah.
March, Tuesday, March 19th at 5:30 here, at 2 Lafayette on the 18th floor. So it should be at the back of your pamphlet. If you remember, we have the parliamentarian role as a part of the executive committee of the CAB, and it has since been vacated. And we are going to move forward to have an election to fill that role, and a slate of candidates will be presented to the governance committee to fulfill that role, but we thought it would make sense to have a training on exactly what parliamentarian procedures are, so you know what that role is. So we're inviting all of you to attend this training on March 19th, and after the training, if you do so, show interest in the position, as I hope you would, then we'll give instructions on how you can submit your name for consideration for that role, and we're hoping to be able to vote for that position at the next CAB meeting. So if you have any questions on that, certainly see a member of DYCD, or you can certainly see myself, and we'll be happy to discuss that further. Also, I believe we have some newly elected NEB chairs here, correct?
Pretty much.
Okay, so since I don't know you by name, but I'm gonna ask that all NAB chairs stand and have an opportunity to introduce yourself. First of all, I'm glad that you're here at this meeting. We're always excited to have the chairs here present at the meeting. So at this time, if you would like to stand and just state your name, where you're from, and anything else that you'd like to say to the board, now's the time to do so.
Go on, Grace.
Grace Ovaglio, Neighborhood Advisory Board in District 11 in the Bronx. Yeah, I'm just looking forward to learning some more, see what goes on with the CAB, and how we all interact and work together.
Thank you. Are there any other chairs? Or are there chairs here who are shy and don't want to say anything?
Neighborhood Advisory Board members? No?
Yeah. Okay, thank you, we appreciate it, welcome. All right, so next up, I'm going to ask Artis to come up, who's going to go over the financial report up on the PowerPoint, but it's also in your, thank you.
You get,
This may be
we have a,
yeah, we have like a little technical issues today.
hello?
Good evening. Thank you.
Happy New Year. Thanks for coming out on such a rainy night. It was earlier. My name is Artis and I work in the financial management shop at DYCD, and I'm going to give a brief financial report on CSBG.
Try to speak up.
Sure. Actually, since there's a lot of new people here, I'll talk a little bit more about budget as well as expenses. For city fiscal year 19, we have close to $34 million. And of that $34 million, sorry, 79% is dedicated to program contracts. For the program contracts, we have nearly $27 million. And as you can see, the bulk of it, $15.5 million, is spent on the neighborhood development group programs. That covers a variety of areas. We have a senior program, we have a healthy family program, we have an opportunity youth program, high school, seniors, and community services program. A separate immigration and refugee assistance program has a budget of $590,000. We have a legal services program that's run out of another city agency, HRA, and that receives a budget of $2.1 million. The NYCALI, or New York City Adult Literacy Program, has a budget of over $500,000. The Fatherhood Initiative Program, $2.8 million. Adolescent Literacy, close to $830,000. And the Summer Youth Employment Program, $4.6 million. As you can see, that represents 79% of the overall budget. And the bulk of it, more than half, goes to the MBA group the next set of money is spent on other contractual services. And these funding here directly support our program contracts above. Some of it is spent here in DYCE, some of it is awarded to vendors to provide technical assistance. As you can see, we've dedicated $1.6 million to technical assistance contracts. Our fiscal field review is a pot of money we set aside for fiscal reviews of our CSBG contracts so that we are ensuring that our providers are keeping their books and so on according to CSBG regulations. Our fiscal agent services, quite a few of our providers don't actually have a fiscal shop in-house, so they joined a citywide contract for things like payroll services and so on, and that pot of money is dedicated to that. We spend a bit of money within DYCE here on marketing and public awareness, publication, printing and subscriptions, consumable supplies, employee development and recruitment, staff travel or development, stipend, essential insurance program. This is actually similar to the fiscal agent services, whereby CBOs are not large enough to buy their own insurance program, so they buy into the citywide insurance program. And we have a small pot of money for family development and credentialing. That totals $2.3 million. And together with program contracts, that represents 86% of the CSBG award. DYCD prides itself on spending as much money on direct services as possible. The balance of the budget, $4.7 million, is spent on personal services for DYCD staff. So that's how the budget is set out. So today I'm going to be talking about spending through through December 2018, which should represent 50% of the budget. But even though there are some January expenses in this report, the bulk of these invoices were not submitted by the time this report was completed. So the Neighborhood Development Group, which has a budget of $15.5 million, is spending at a 25% rate, which is $3.9 million. Immigration Refugee Assistance is spending at 30%. HRA Legal Services 33%, Nitality the same. Fatherhood is spending at 24%, Adolescent Literacy 11%, and SYP at 97%. You'll notice that the 97% stands out compared to the rest. And this is because the bulk of the SYP program happens in the first 2 months of the fiscal year. So together, that represents 38% of spending. You'll also notice that we have a payments column, and that the payments number is higher than the expenditure number. And this is because DYCD gives our providers an advance at the start of the fiscal year so that they have funds for startup. And towards the end of the year, we recoup those advances. So towards the end of March, this number will be higher than expenditures. And between April and June, that number will start to level out where expenses will be very close to payments. For other contractual services, our spending rate is at 15%, and the highlight in that area is technical assistance contracts. And payments in this case represents expenses as well. And for personal services, we're spending at 58% or $2.7 million. What we're going to look at next is a comparison of these numbers to the last time we met in November. So over 2 months, we've increased expenditures from $3.7 million to from $6.5 million to 10.3, which represents 59% increase. So over 2 months, we've increased our expenditures by that much. Payments have been increased by 42%. For auto program contracts, it's nearly double our spending compared to the last report, and the same for personnel services. So that concludes my report. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Does anyone have any questions on the financial report? And thanks, Astrid. She always does a good job with this report. For the new members, this report is sent out prior to the meeting, and a bit of the PowerPoint as well. Well, I'm really struggling with this, Mike. We put it up on the PowerPoint as well, so we at least see the financials of full through. But for those new members who may have questions and may want to put us to the side just to get some clarification on what was presented, please see a member of DYCD or myself, because we'll be happy to kind of answer those questions for you or get back to you at the next meeting, because we want everyone to be fully kind of understanding the financials. It's tough to look at the numbers if you haven't had a chance to digest it.
Yeah, I just clarify, where it says a percentage, all these different program contracts, how many, like, it's not just one program, it's different say for a fatherhood initiative. Is that for one program, or is it many programs
It's one
combined?
city, it's one citywide program.
One city, it's one program.
It's the Fatherhood Initiative, but there's contracts all over the city to carry out that program.
So the Fatherhood Initiative is one citywide program, but there are splinters of different programs under the Fatherhood Initiative. That
Right,
makes
so
sense.
basically it's one, and then it has stepchildren,
Right.
stepping out,
Exactly.
but they all get the funding that goes under.
Under that particular category of Fatherhood Initiative, correct.
I was just told by Noreen, who does our program validation and deals with all the state stuff, she's a genius. She says there's 8 contracts for the fatherhood program across the city.
So let's say if someone wanted to contract, is there room for
Well,
more?
Well, they
of
put out
fatherhood?
a request for proposal, what they did like, I
Right,
think 2 years
okay.
ago. It's 2 years, right? Yeah. So it just started the new cycle for those contracts.
Okay.
So we'll see when they put out the next one, that they're probably, anybody can apply,
Well, okay.
for the funding.
And what is NYCALI? What is that? What does that stand for? NYCALI?
That's a question for artists. Did she leave? I couldn't
Do
answer.
I just leave?
So it was the adult literacy program.
Oh, okay, all right, I missed it, okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's another citywide initiative, plus we have the CSBG programs and adult literacy as well.
Now, is that in conjunction with the DOE, because the DOE offers free adult education, or is that
No,
something
it's
separate?
separate. It is separate. Those are DYCD contracts.
Yes, and just a reminder, just state your name for the record for the stenographer, before you speak, please.
Good.
Michael Landon, Comptroller Scott Stringer. 2 quick questions. One, the payments are higher because you said there are advances paid to some of the contracted entities at the beginning of the year, so that they're
Yeah,
actually able to
it's
get.
like a loan.
How's that actually determine how much they're getting?
Because they sign a contract for how much they're getting.
No, but I mean, is it a percentage of their contract, or?
Yeah, it's a percentage of the contract. They're being advanced.
Okay.
The money that they're expecting to get in their contract, but sometimes they're waiting to be registered with the controller. The program needs to start, so they ask
No,
for an
understood.
advance.
And the second question I had, given that overall spending is only at 38%, I know that with summer youth employment, there's gonna be variation because of when the program, it's a summer
Right.
program, so you
Yeah.
expect the
So
bulk
if
of the
you look at
expenses in the
the
summertime.
breakdown, I don't have it in front of me, you'll see that SYP programs are much higher.
Right, but my question actually relates to the other programs in terms of us being at the beginning of the second half of the fiscal year
Right.
and still being well below 50% of the expenditures.
Because if they start, a lot of the programs start in September. And then if they're new contracts, they have to go through the registration process and all of that. So that means that they're not invoicing until the program is registered, but they're still running the program,
Got it.
okay? That's very,
Praise the back,
very
sorry.
Salvaggio.
So if a program, would it be more beneficial for a program to start at the beginning of the fiscal year?
That's usually when the program starts.
Which is when is the fiscal, that's what it,
The city fiscal year begins July first.
in July?
Yeah.
But you, right, so you're saying most programs start in September?
Yeah, because some of them are connected with schools, so the school year begins in September.
But
So
you
what
don't,
they
they
do
don't
is
take
they
into
do-
account summer schools and stuff like that, but. So if they
They
started
may
in
have a
July
summer
though,
program, they may not.
if they started in July, then do you think it would be a higher, percentage of use,
It depends.
depending on the program,
It
right?
depends if their contract is registered or not. If the contract is not registered, that money is not being reflected there. But they can ask for an advance in order to get the program started until the contract is registered. That's pretty much what I mean.
Next question, and I apologize, these mics are not operating well today, so just speak loud. Just say your name and your question, please.
Michelle Peregrine. When you went through the budget, or when the budget was gone through, under other contractual services, some of those were earmarked directly for DYCD. Is there a percentage allotted under the community, under this block grant that DYCD can spend down for personal services or direct services for
Yeah.
themselves, OTPS costs?
There is a percentage, I'm not sure exactly what it is.
Yeah, because we let artists go early.
We can do that.
I would love to know that.
So it says, in the bottom there, it says other contractual services as a percent of the total, and it says seven, in the
No,
budget, 7%.
Right, just in general.
In general, there is it's money for running the program.
Right,
It's a
and I'm
percentage.
curious to know what that percentage is.
Yeah.
So your question is, what is the percentage of monies to run the programs?
What is
What
the
for other-
percentage allotted under the
That's
block
not
grant
clear.
for OTPS and PS costs to DYCD?
Okay.
We can get that information.
Thank
We'll
you.
get that answer
Because I don't want
back to you.
Thank you.
make up stuff.
Absolutely. Any other questions? These questions are helpful too, so we thank you for that. Any other questions on the financial report? Okay, great. So in the absence of our deputy commissioner, who I understand is not feeling well today, we're gonna have James Bernard come up and present that report, and after him, I believe Anita is gonna come up with a portion of the report as well. And I wanna thank them both, because they've been doing quite a bit of work behind the scenes since our last rescheduled meeting, relating to getting some of our elected seats filled and so forth. So really appreciate the work they're doing behind the scenes, so.
Want me to?
You would need this.
Yeah.
Bernard. James
Yeah,
Bernard.
sorry. I'm actually gonna, since there's so many new people here, I'm gonna actually read a lot of Sandy's remarks, because I wanted you to hear exactly what she wanted to convey. But I'll try to make it fast for you. First of all, let me say this is my second meeting, and this week will be my second month. And I want to thank all of you, because the work that you've been doing for years has been really inspiring to me so far here. So thank you. If you can't hear me, let me know. Some of it I'm going to read, some of it I'm not. But good evening, everyone. Happy New Year. This year we're looking forward to furthering our work with all things community. The plan is to intensify and expand our community engagement efforts, beginning with identifying community service needs in our neighborhood development areas. As you know, we're committed to the Community Services Block Grant Law that states we must have maximum feasible participation from our local communities. Hearing from our community's voice is vital to providing the most needed services. But most importantly, we're providing them the opportunity to advocate not just for themselves, but also their neighbors. It is in this way that we can support stronger community development and stronger networks in local communities. So the first thing that we're doing this year is really trying to strengthen the neighborhood advisory boards. As you know, this year we do the triennial, which is a word I had to learn how to spell the last couple of days, community needs assessment. This year we're going to try to go deeper into the communities, make sure that we represent folks that were underrepresented before, and also try to be more strategic about pinpointing areas within each region. That's going to take a lot of work. One of the things that we're doing in order to get that done is we're beefing up the staff. We have 3 new people coming on. One has already come on. I didn't tell you I'm going to do this, but Primavera Vasquez is, she started today. She said it's her first month. And she comes from the Citizens, specializing in community outreach, and she's been great. I mean that. And we have another person starting on Monday, and a third person starting on the 4th. That's the Monday. And so with that, we'll have more staff. We can really focus on the neighborhood advisory boards and really kind of drill down. That's really going to be helpful. I said a lot of this, but the community assessment starts in early spring. Will kick off in April, and it'll end on August 6th, which is the National Night Out Against Crime. In preparation, we're in the planning stages of managing the data in terms of scanning, analyzing, and reporting the data. In addition, we're going to schedule trainings for all NAB members to administer the survey. Tonight, Astrid is here to talk about the survey, and you're going to be able to ask her any questions you want to about it, not in a second, but in a second. And she's also going to talk about the Ambassador Project. We've recognized the NAB people who are here. Every NAB member stand up or say anything? Okay. Okay. This is Sandy again. At our last meeting, I promised to provide you with more information concerning DYCD's position and guide on civic engagement. Later this evening, Crystal Casson, who is a deputy director in the Compass program, will introduce you to what has been developed and will lead a brief discussion on the agency's work on developing the guide for civic engagement. Okay, so 2 more things I have to. The federal government shutdown. I'm sure you're concerned about how we are faring in terms of the longest federal government shutdown in history. Despite the fact that we administer federal funds, it does not affect our work just yet. The shutdown applies to agencies that have not yet been funded through the regular appropriations process. Because the Department of Health and Human Services, as well as the Department of Labor, have already been funded before the end of the federal fiscal year, they will continue to operate. That means that DYCD will continue to receive block grant and workforce innovation funding. However, people that we serve are going to be facing a very dire situation soon because SNAP money runs out in the middle of February. So even though the agency's work or our work won't be affected, there are a lot of people that we care about in this room, people in this room care about, we're going to be very facing hard. Same thing with WIC and Canada. Okay, this is very important. MWBE, as I wrap up, I want to give you a brief update on our MWBE initiative. Many of you are familiar with the mandate DYCD seek out and utilize minority and women-owned business enterprises. The first few years, we struggled to meet the requirements set by the state. Now that we have operationalized and systematized how the agency and CBOs engage NWBEs, I am pleased to report that DYCD will report to the New York State Department of State that our NWBE utilization in fiscal year 2018 was $859,841, and we hit 90% of the target.
Wow.
So, okay, those are the highlights. The last thing I want to say is that with the CAB, we do have new representatives from elected officials. We also have 3 empty seats for people representing the community. And I'm happy to report that we have elections that are going to be set up for those seats. So those vacant seats will not be empty in April. I know we've had a little bit of a hard time making quorum the last 2 meetings. I'm told that these 2 meetings are notoriously difficult to get people to come out for. But we are working really hard to fill the empty seats because those do count against us. So going forward, this shouldn't be an issue, okay? Also, any questions about the fiscal stuff that should have been, that Astrid can answer, please email those. I forgot who had those. Artist had it. Yeah.
We'll ask Artist.
Okay.
Got a copy of this. In the finances.
Okay, now it's my turn. And James just walked away with the mic, so.
No, it's there, right
Next to you,
Oh,
next to the laptop.
ow, blended into it. Sorry, James. And of course it's all. So can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Because I'm behind the speakers, round shaped things there. Okay, so this is the update for the strategic plan that you've all, those of you who have been here for a while have heard about over and over again. So we've just gone through year 2. And what has been completed between 2017 and 2018, and we're going to talk about projects in progress and projects on the horizon and going above and beyond. So with the results-oriented management accountability, the state said we met 100% of the across standards in 2018. And a lot of that comes from this CAB. I work on that report all the time. I was working on it last Friday, and everything that I did were minutes from the CAB, that the CAB voted on things, all of that. So you have a big part of that audit that goes to the state, and we met 100%. There are 50 standards, national standards that we have to meet, and you helped us to meet all of them. So I want to thank you. So the next report, the deadline is next week. So there's a lot more work to do, which I'll be doing tomorrow. And then we're going to have an on-site audit in sometime in February. Okay, the customer satisfaction survey in 2018 collected data and is now being analyzed. The results will be at the next meeting. And trainings, we completely revamped the new member training for both the CAB and the NAB. And we held 2 sessions of the NAB training and 1 session of the CAB training. We also had a midday session of the NAB training, which 25 people came to see. These numbers are slightly up. But it's great, and we had participation, and nobody went to sleep that I saw. So I think it's a good thing. And we're going to have a lot more trainings, like we're having this parliamentary procedure training. We're going to have it for the CAB. We're going to invite the NAB. The Roma training comes up in May at the program committee meeting, and that's a NAB and CAB training. So it's led by Noreen and Company, and it's really, that's another one no one sleeps in that one. The Ambassador Project, Astrid will be talking about in more detail. We charged the NAB members to go out into their communities and ask if what was found out to be true in their neighborhoods from the 2016 needs assessment. Did that make sense? Did things change? And asked all of those questions. So now they've been able to crunch most of the numbers. Now, this report, yeah, it has all of the numbers, but Astrid is gonna go into it a little more. Some of you got the individual reports, some of the regional representatives for your area, but we have copies of other reports from other areas or outside of the table. So if you're interested in seeing what individual neighborhoods did, you can look at those on the table. The CAB members were, of course, made aware of operational regulations, bylaws, rules, conflict of interest, whistleblower policy, and we do that every year, and I'm sure you know about that. What's changed this year, coming up, is that they want a conflict of interest form every year. So in the next, yes, so in the next, I saw a face over there. The next meeting, we're gonna have to get everybody to sign another conflict of interest form, because what the state asked for, we have to give it to them. Okay, and all IT information systems have been overhauled. Okay, PTS went live, and that's the programming information. It went live in July of 2018. So different units have been going on to the system at different points. They didn't all go on at once. So they're still going on. Okay. Enhancing the NABs. We will have by February 3 new members that are liaisons that will be going on, so that what that does is it brings down the caseload for the liaisons that were here. With Gian leaving, each one of us had 14 NABs that we were responsible for, besides all the other work that we have to do. So all over the city. I had all 12 boards in the Bronx and 2 in Brooklyn, of course, in Coney Island and Gravesend.
Wow.
So it's been really fun. So I'm very happy to have Primavera here, and I'm very happy. I'm very happy to have the other two. I know Jorge and Susan will be very happy too, because they've had 14 boards for the longest time. So that's the changes there. So we're going to incorporate the CNA, the 2016 CNA, and the Ambassador Project findings in the next surveys. And as it says here, integrating information on food pantries, identifying neighborhoods where there's a low number of SYEP programs. That's going to be all integrated into this next community needs assessment. And we're developing the NAB youth contingent by working with the Cornerstone and the Beacon programs, because those programs have youth councils, so it's just a natural fit to try and recruit members from there. But that doesn't mean that we don't have youth on the NABs right now. We do have a lot of members that are under the age of 25. And the minimum age for NAB, in case you don't know, is 16. So we're trying to increase that so there's at least 2 youth members in each NAB. Next. So as James said, the community needs assessment will begin in April, and it will finish on August 6th, which is the National Night Out. Besides the survey, we'll have public hearings as usual, and the NAB training will be held in March. The survey is being translated into 11 languages. Okay, so this says, and Sandy will probably be back to give you a better report than I am in April. When finally the year 2 update can be presented in its totality. So that's it for me right now. Thank you. Now I gotta go check and see if we have quorum.
Just need the mic.
Okay, Thank you, James. Thank you, Anita. Any questions? A lot of information here, obviously, so it's hard to, well, I don't want to say hard, to use the wrong word, maybe a lot to absorb, but any initial questions on the report from either James or Anita? Okay, great. So good stuff. We thank you for that. All right, so next up, we're going to go into the committee reports. I'll try to move along. We do have two committee members that couldn't make it here. They had other obligations related to the city. So we'll move through this rather quickly. First up, I'm going to ask Linda to give her governance report.
Thank you, and good evening, everyone. The Governance Committee met on Wednesday, January 9th, 2019. Oh, and by the way, everybody, I had my eye dilated, so, you know, if I'm struggling, it's because I'm trying to make the words stay straight. Okay, the Governance Committee met on Wednesday, January 9th, 2019. And the meeting minutes are in the board package on page 11 that everybody has. CAB vacancies, elections update. There are currently 4 vacancies in the low-income sector, specifically in Regions 7, NDA, Manhattan 3, 8, NDA, Manhattan 9 and 12, 17, NDA, Queens, NDA 3, 4, and 7, and Brooklyn, NDA, Chairperson Representative. The election process for Region 7 and the Brooklyn NAB Chair Representative will begin today. The other 2 elections will be completed by the March committee meeting. In the public sector, there is 1 vacancy that is a mayor appointee. Staff will work with DYCD External Relations Unit to fill the vacancy. As a candidate is needed for CAB parliamentarian, there will be a training in parliamentary procedure sponsored by the Governance Committee at its Tuesday, March 19th meeting. All board members are welcome to attend. And we hopeful that at least 1 candidate step up to become a parliamentarian. The election will be held at the April 4th CAB in-full meeting, and the elected candidate will complete the term that ends in 2020, April 2020, sorry. Everyone should have received a flyer at the door. If not, a staff member will bring one to you. And that's it. Any questions?
Any questions on the governance report? And if you recall, James Bernard referenced this in his presentation earlier about the individuals that have been identified for those elections that are going to take place. So our hope is that those individuals will be elected into those roles, and those seats would be filled. Any other questions on the governance report? Okay, in the absence of Tamika Robinson, I'm just going to ask Anita to quickly go through the program committee report.
Okay, the program committee met on Tuesday, January 8th, 2019, and the minutes are in the board packet on page 12. A presentation by Marshall Montefiore Community Center, or MMCC, was made. And MMCC provides services to 35,000 families annually through various programs. They gave an overview on the Opportunity Youth Program in NDA Bronx 7 and 8, and that targets youth 18 to 24 who are not in school and not working. The program provides paid internship work experience, case management, and referral services, and high school equivalency classes to 46 participants in 2 14-week cohorts. Then, they presented on their educational support for high school students, at the Bronx Lab School in NDA Bronx 12. That's located in the Evander campus. And that program serves 32 high school students who need academic support to improve grades, increase chances of advancing to the next grade, and graduation. The program provided non-traditional academic enrichment such as to engage and inspire students. Some of the programs are called Raspberry Pi, which is not food. It's PI, you know what you need to figure out the area of a circle. I remember. Methodology for it, and it's part of the STEM program. That's science, technology, engineering, and math. For math skills, and they also have a media program in filmmaking from beginning to end, every part of filmmaking you can imagine. And that emphasizes English and interpersonal and collaborative skills. You all need to come to the program committee at least once a year because the presentations are fabulous and you get to hear where this money is being put to good use. So if you can make the effort, everybody has the calendar. If you don't have a calendar, you let me know and I'll get a calendar to you right away. The other presentation was from Eastside House Settlement, and they provided an overview of their educational support for high school program. And they're located at the High School for Excellence in Innovation in NDA Manhattan 12. That program provides targeted support to overage and undercredited students coming out of middle school and places them on a path to high school graduation and college acceptance. Services include attendance, improvement, dropout prevention, counseling, and parent-family support to help the students attend and excel in school. Academic enrichment includes participation in intergenerational services to senior community, residents, and college-level courses in the health services field at Lehman College. And staff announced that the DYCB Capacity Building Unit will be presenting on the Family Development Credential Program at the March meeting. And then the Roma training will happen in May. And as I said, if the program committee's jumping, you should all come at least once a year. That's the report.
Thank you, Anita. Any questions on the program committee report? Last up is the Strategic Partnerships Committee report. Ariel is in Albany and couldn't make it here today, but she's the chair of that committee. She held that meeting on January 3rd. There was a presentation by DYCD on the civic engagement approach. This is a new initiative that promotes civic engagement among participants to help them acquire civic knowledge and to develop civic skills and attitudes. The program is currently in its first phase and will be rolling out phase 2 sometime in July of 2019. There was also discussion about NAB recruitment, so we talked a lot about this today, so you should see a common theme on the focus on that, and there's been a lot of progress in terms of that. The youth contingent update, there was, the staff received a list of Beacon Cornerstone programs throughout the city and identified their corresponding NABs. And NAB recruitment is scheduled to begin with 1 or 2 of the councils with the NDAs. Lastly, there was conversation about SYAP. I know it's hard to think about it with winter and the way the weather is, but we're going to roll around the summer again. And very quickly, we're going to be talking about SYAP and Ladders for Leaders. There are pamphlets outside. You may have received this already. So now's the time for us to really start focusing on SYAP. Ariel put together a little sheet. I'm not sure if we have the copies here, but if not, just check. A little. Okay, it is in the packet. So it's an information request, request sheet. If you have an idea of a SYAP work site that's not currently a work site, We want that information so we can start to engage public and private sector work sites that can be a part of SYEP. Also on the bottom of the list is Just the School and Youth Program for the outreach for NAB Youth Board. So that sheet is there. If you know the information now, leave it with us now. If not, please within the next week email us, email a member at the UICD or myself that information so we can obviously follow up on it. We all know how productive and how successful the SYEP program has been. So successful, we're never able to serve as many youth that apply for the program, but if we can add more work sites in all of the boroughs to be able to support that, I think it would be a help and a boost to the program. So please share that information with us. That's the Strategic Partnerships Committee report. Any question on that at all? Okay, thank everyone for.
Can I add about the pamphlets?
Yes.
On the back of the pamphlets that you received is the contact person for the employer. Her name is Dulcie Andrade. It's on the back here. It's got folded in. It's right on the back here. So if you know of anybody in your neighborhood that has a business, it can be a small business like an ice cream shop, or it could be something big like a factory. And you think they'd be a good site for an SYP student, just put them in touch with Dulcie. Just say, you know, I'm referring you to Dulcie. You talk to her, she'll take it from there. You don't have to give details or anything about how to participate. You just send it to send them on to Dulcie, and she'll give them all the particulars. One of the things we had a couple of years ago was that, particularly in the Bronx and also in Queens, there weren't enough work sites there, so the youth had to come either into Manhattan or go into Brooklyn to work. So if we could get more work sites all around the city, that would be good.
So these are just for businesses, or what about organizations?
Organization, nonprofit,
They don't have to.
yeah, nonprofit, any businesses, any nonprofit, any businesses, any elected official office, district offices, community board offices, whatever you can think of. Even firehouses, they need somebody to answer the phone. I mean, they can teach the kids something. So, so it's easy. You put this in the person's hand, and they can, and Dulcie will take it from there. And in April, we're gonna have Dulcie come and present to us again, and hopefully she'll bring a youth that participated in the program and also a worksite person to talk about the experience.
And keep in mind that the minimum wage went up this year, January 1st, so participants are now getting $15 an hour. So this would be a real economic boost for the youth to get them to working. Dulcie, I love when she does a presentation. Keep in mind, half of the youth, this is their very first job. Very first job. So they're getting work experience. There are funds that are allocated specific for this program. I speak passionately about it because as a representative of Models, we employ youth every year, right? Anywhere from 250 to 300. I have youth in every single Model store in the tri-state area. And this year, we hired 16% of the youth that participated. We offered them permanent positions. So this program is really good, and obviously the elevated program, the Ladders for Leaders program, where they go through some really structured pre-employment training and work in various industries and corporate environments. Again, another great program. So let's hopefully get some additional work sites throughout the tri-state area to be able to support the youth that apply. I saw a hand up. Does someone else have a question? Hi, Michelle.
Hi, just because I know a lot about the recent RFP, just if you
Absolutely, and thanks for pointing that out. So if you didn't hear that, although 14 and 15-year-olds are eligible for SYP, they don't have the same flexibility and opportunities to work for companies due to liability issues and things of that nature to be able to get the $15 an hour wage. But they are an opportunity to get work experience still based on that. So just keep that in mind when you're engaging with these employers. But the pamphlet has a lot of information. Let the UICD do the heavy lifting. We want the information. We'll establish and strengthen the partnerships. Just give us the information. Okay, thank you for that feedback. So next up, we're going to ask Astrid to come up, and she is going to go over the interim report on the ambassador program.
Am I getting the mic?
Yeah, this mic.
So I don't have to
Very low, you don't have to
yell.
Astrid, A-S-T-R.
Thank you. So good evening, everybody. Can you guys hear me? I have like a bit of a cold, like everybody else apparently. So, or I guess others at UICD. So I'm Astrid Spota-Wolfe. I'm the Director of Analytics here at UICD. I'm part of the Planning, Program Integration, and Evaluation Unit. And so I'm going to talk to you guys today about the community needs assessment and all of the work that's been completed to date and what's coming soon, which my colleagues have been referring to throughout this meeting. But I'll be going into it more in detail. So first I wanted to get into the ambassador data. So this was an effort that was conducted during the summer, which seems so long ago. And basically what happened was there was 350 total community conversations that were completed during that time period. And those conversations took place in 93% of all the NDAs. And so what people were charged to do in these community conversations was to review the findings of the 2016 needs assessment. So all of the different NDAs had a set of questions and response options about what were the most needed programs and services in their area. And so they were asked to review those community-specific findings and reflect on whether or not that was representative of their community and kind of outline what was missing from the data that they were reviewing in 2016, especially because things change, demographics shift, needs constantly evolve, and so there's a period in which this is a time to sort of reflect on what's changed and what wasn't captured in the actual needs assessment, and to just raise any new service gaps that may come up. And so based on those conversations and those data points, we created a community profile, which I think was administered to you guys at this meeting and previously. And so we outlined what people said in those community conversations. And so I'm going to show you an example of what that looks like. This is just one sample. Everybody's is different. And so on the Ambassador Project profile, every NDA gets their own. And so we outlined the number of total meetings that were conducted, and then the top 5 programs or services that people felt were underrepresented in the community needs assessment in those meetings. And we also we outlined what were the emerging issues that arose, as well as things that are persistent and long-standing, so that we could just distinguish what is new that we might have missed from the data since 2016. That was a while ago. And so what's next, basically? After we collected 2016 data, we did this ambassador project, a lot of people are wondering what we're going to do with all of this stuff, right? So all of this data actually informs the 2019 community needs assessment. So in essence, it's sort of like a funnel, right? So 2016, people identified these programs and service gaps. And then again, we reflected on what's missing. So what we're going to do for the 2019 community needs assessment is have the community weigh in on which of the identified needs and services is the highest priority or the most needed. And that's gonna directly inform the priority setting process, the RFPs and the awards that are given ultimately. So it's like an iterative process. So the way that we're doing this is we're taking the top 4 needs or service areas or programs that were identified from the 2016 neighborhood development area. Then we're gonna take the top service gap or program that was identified by each NDA in that ambassador community conversation project. And now the respondents in the new community needs assessment in 2019 are gonna be charged with voting on which of those top 5 priorities, which of those top 5 are the highest priority for the community, or which ones are the ones that people need the most. And then it's gonna be brought to the priority setting meeting. So we're very excited that we're gonna be able to utilize this data that everyone's been collecting in a meaningful way. And so I wanted to show you an example. This is unformatted and we still have some work to do on it, but this is the new survey. And so, as I mentioned, the first question on here is basically that question I referred to. Every NDA is going to have their own survey because everybody's needs differed in these 2 last data collection efforts. And again, they're going to be asked to select those service gap that's most needed. So then the next question after that is really focusing on like how people are getting information, their methods of information attainment, and then some demographic and economic characteristics to help look at differences between responses, and to also see, compare it to, which we did in our community profiles last time, compare it to the community composition, because this is not a scientific survey, and so we do know that people don't always, not everybody is represented in the survey, so it's an opportunity to take stock of that and to see if you've missed somebody and to make sure their voices are heard and represented if they're not in the survey. So we asked a series of questions about that. And then we're also asking just about more questions related to need, like what people actually participated in the past 12 months and what they perceive as the most needed in the community. And also, we also are asking why people that are identifying these needs aren't attaining the services that they need. What are the barriers to participation? I'm sure most of you guys heard when I presented the results in the last round, most people said it was because of lack of information. That was like coming up constantly in all the NDAs across the board. So we want to see if we've done some resource guides where UICD is trying to get the word out. We want to see if that still remains to be the barrier or if it's something else, because again, our communities shift over time. So that's the survey and the ambassador profiles. Did anybody have any questions about the process or the questions? Sure.
I have to yell.
Yeah.
Okay, I can give you.
No, you can use the mic. Just say your name.
I have a little voice. Thanks. Lizzie Tannemel, President Melinda Katz's office. This is very interesting to me, and I'm wondering, you mentioned that every NDA is going to have its own needs assessment, or that it's going to be tailored to the needs of that NDA, which is wonderful, but then how do you compile the data and compare across NDAs?
Yeah, we're not going to compare across. Well, actually, okay, it's going to be easier if I look at the instrument. So for the purpose of the prioritization, it's not comparable, right? Because we did 2 previous data collection efforts, like people have spoken in a variety of ways and they've said that these are their needs, now they get to vote on their unique needs for that priority setting process. So that really can't be amassed into something citywide. But, like I mentioned, these other questions here, this is going to everybody in this uniform way, so then we can generalize about overall what the needs are in a little bit more of a broader way than the specific community needs. Yeah. But yeah, it's a little tricky. Did anybody else have any questions? Should I bring the mic over?
David Alexander, Region 16 and 5. I presented this, those 2019. I presented this at the 2018 Line Up Against Crime, and had people sign it. But what they mostly did was check everything off. What do you do when that happens?
Well, they are, they are, I mean, if everything is a need to them,
So how
then
do you
everything is.
prioritize? That's my question. How do you prioritize?
It's frequency. I mean, and I didn't see every single survey because there was over 10,000, but it didn't happen all the time. And we did see very close percentages between things. So like, you see there's 3 different questions, and we kind of like parsed out we looked at the differences between the responses in those 3 questions and kind of figured out if people are consistently saying the same thing across 3 questions, what does that imply? Is it about like not having enough services for that specific program, or if there's differences, is it like that would help us tell the narrative basically. It's really about, you can't really limit someone from selecting everything if that's how they feel, but it really is about the people who are engaging, the survey takers, to maybe specify that in the future, maybe this round, to pick the ones that are the highest priority to you, or giving instructions, but we don't really want to limit them. So really it's about the percentage at the end of the day and the way the 3 data points compare to each other that we can get a good sense of like what actually is the highest priority. We did see clear trends though. It wasn't like every single need had the same percentage, so but maybe this round we could do a better job like with messaging so that people don't pick everything unless they really feel strongly about that. Yeah.
I have a question.
Sure.
My name is Wayne King. I'm from Region 12. I don't necessarily need this. I think I'm loud enough. But my problem was when I handed these out to people, I would start with one. First of all, they were 12 pages long.
They're not anymore.
Oh, thank God.
3 pages.
All right. That was 3 pages. Okay, then you basically answered my question.
Great.
I was going to ask if there was any way to streamline it because I was working with one. And then I showed it to another one. They opened the second page and said, "Oh my God, why is this so long?"
No, we hear you.
All right, so that was my question.
No, 100% hear you. We know, it's really long. And we had to process all the surveys, and there are over 10,000, so I hear it. It's like a lot. It's 3 pages. This isn't the final format. We're actually going to be working with a vendor to help us process, because I was doing this pretty much by myself, and I can't now. So it could even be 2 pages, or however the vendor wants to format it, and we're going to look into different ways to make it easier, like maybe something you could tear off, or we're looking into how to make it easier. I also will note that this is for youth and adult this time. So there's not two separate documents. It's going to be both youth and adults. So that should make it even easier.
Thank God.
But the translations obviously have to be on their own pages, so translated surveys.
Is it, do you think that you could possibly break it into categories so it won't be all over the place, like financial, whatever deals with financial is here, and whatever deals with
I can look into
education
that. Yeah, we did that with the ambassador, right? I can look into that and see.
Yeah, because this is a lot of information. Maybe that's why they checked it.
Sure. I'll look into how we can format that with the vendor.
Okay.
Ooh, lots of questions. All right.
Just a quick one, I'm pretty loud. Candace Julian, Borough President's Office. Are these surveys digital?
Great question. We're looking into that. It didn't work very well last time, to be honest.
The question
Whether
is,
it was digital. We tried a multi-method last time, and most of it came back paper. Most people preferred paper. We're looking into what a vendor could do with the multi-method. But yeah.
Hi, Grace Lavio, District 11. When we do the surveys, being that it's from April, right? April to August, right? So in that time, my thought is to hold, if you want to call them survey parties, where you gather a bunch of people together from the neighborhood or whatever, and then make a little party out of it and go over everything to make sure people understand. Is that, that's
Do you mean the respondents?
Right, exactly. Just go over it. So if they have questions, you're there to answer questions. Because a lot of people get frustrated when they see all that stuff and they don't understand, like the 3 lines, the 3, received, needed but didn't receive, most needed but don't have, basically, so.
We'll look into the best practice. We're gonna do a better, more robust training job and think about more data collection. We learned a lot from last time, obviously. So we'll look into that. I do know that public hearings also is gonna be a really good place to collect a lot of this feedback. So we could do some type of training and walking through the survey in that venue as well. But we'll look into other types of methods or things with you guys. Thanks. Anybody else?
My question was, sort of at first, could you make an app that people could use in their phone and do the
I would look into that. I would love to. I would look into it.
Okay.
But it's the administrative burden of having 3 different places of data and then merging it all together, where it was a lot last time. So we'll look into it certainly.
I'm just gonna say, a lot of people assume that people have access to technology. People who need these kinds of support, a lot of them may not have. Everybody depends too much on the email or text or whatever.
Right.
But
well, irrespective of that, it's always good to have options.
Right.
So I do understand. I recognize that.
Right.
Yeah.
We don't steer away from the actual paper.
Correct. No. And certainly nobody would do that. It would have to be, if we're gonna offer more than one option, they are all options. But right now we're focusing on paper, and we'll see. But I do understand. I empathize.
Yeah, could you tell us a little bit about language access? Because if we want everyone in the community to participate, some people need to answer in a different language.
Correct. It's available. It's being translated in 11 languages. Yeah. So all of the, what is it? I think it was the city council. Recommended the requirement, and I think we added one that was requested very frequently from our data. But that's always a challenge, and to bear in mind, even if we translate it, one thing we found last time was people, to your point, were it's one thing to be able to read it, but if you have questions, right? There's nobody who can necessarily speak the language who's disseminating it to answer those questions and to clarify. So it's something we really want to strategize this time, and it's a totally common problem in all surveys I've ever done in my career. So you need, if you guys know people that speak all these languages, or there should be some strategy around that so that we can get as representative a sample as possible and hear as many voices as possible.
Last question.
No worries.
I'm on the community board 16. And the information, is it possible for me to get the information so that I can look at the information, what the needs are, to make sure that these programs are in my community?
Yeah, so that's another thing. So last time you got a community profile, and there was the DYCD funded programs that were in your area that was on your profile. But it was just DYCD funded programs, right?
Right.
Where there's a new data set that was released by the whole city. This is not that exciting to anyone but me, but a lot of the other agencies have not, there's a place to actually access all the city services, by geography. So we're actually working on, in addition to giving you a list of all the programs and services DYCD funds, because we know that, other city services as well, so that you can see and kind of try to draw a comparison to the needs categories, so that you could see, let's say your board or your NAB says that that's a bad example, that housing is the #1 need. You could try to see all the housing programs, both DYCD funded and otherwise, that are in that community, but it'll never be a perfectly exhaustive list, because that just doesn't exist in city government yet.
Yeah, because we do have a list of programs outside of DYCD programs. We do have a list of programs because we monitor the community to find out what's coming in.
Right.
See if the services are needed or are they just BS services. So if you give me a list of what the results, I can look at that list and determine.
And compare. Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna work on that.
I think that's important to addressing the needs of the
100%
community.
agree.
Okay.
Yes, we're gonna work on it, but again, it will never be a perfect
That's okay,
list,
just as long as
unfortunately.
they started and,
Yeah, yeah,
and get it out there.
yeah. Anybody else? Alright. Oh, there's another one, go ahead.
Just wondering, through this
Just say your
process.
name, please.
I'm sorry, my name is, Manny Martinez. I'm just wondering, through this process, what has been the impact in these, communities?
Well, that's a very difficult question to answer. Well, DYCD has actually changed a lot of their policies and the way that we operate based on the survey results. Whereas 3 years ago, there was no new RFP, so we couldn't make decisions about funding based on the needs assessment data, which we will now be doing, so it will have a direct impact in this new cycle. But DYCD has been operating in a very different way based on the results of this survey. So we're kind of been working on, like I said, the barriers to accessing the needed services was lack of information. We have a ton of initiatives that we're working on to get the word out about all these programs and services that are available free of charge, that don't have a wait list, that address the highest need categories that are listed here. And then we're also working on like our having more holistic programs and services that address like all the different types of needs, because one of the main findings that we found is that there are so many different needs of people. There's not one extremely dominant need that was identified. Like basic needs has come up over and over and over in every NDA, and that's something that DYCD doesn't necessarily, some of our programs do, but we don't necessarily directly do that, and it's something that through our programs that have case management, that people are being more cognizant, learning more about the food pantries and soup kitchens, and all of the types of programs and services that would address that. People are disseminating more information to make those connections. But this time, the priorities will be based on the data. That was a long answer for that, sorry.
No, I understand. This is the first year that we're facing the assessments of the data?
So this is the first time, well, no, there's been a history of the needs assessment informing priorities. Since I've gotten here, this is the first time a new RFP is going to be issued, and in turn, the data can directly inform that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Good.
All right.
Thank you, Astrid. A lot of information. Thank you for the questions and the feedback. And if you have any additional questions, please let us know. We want to be able to share all the information and answer all questions you have. All right, we're moving towards the end of this meeting. Any old business that we need to discuss at all? Any old business that anyone has? Any new business? Yes, just say your name.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Cynthia Cox. I live in the Bronx, but I am Bronx and Queens. I went to Queens last night. Well, hey, it was really right. But in the meantime, let me just say to you too, I'm doing a health and wellness on Saturday at my church. It's 2005 Amsterdam Avenue. We have a Dr. Yamana. Will be working with me to empower, to improve people's health, because people are just having heart attacks just like that. So I am health coach. Thank you.
What's the name and location of the church?
2005 Amsterdam Avenue, 159 and 160 on the second floor.
What's the name of the church?
Church on the Hill. Church on the Hill, AM Design. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other new business?
Please take food.
All right, just a couple of things real quick.
I don't know if anybody's aware of this, but it was told to me that, and I'm not sure of this, don't quote me please, but it was told to me that Bill de Blasio had mentioned that they were gonna double up on the food stamps for February, because if the shutdown continues, they won't get any food stamps in March. So maybe you could, speak to, when the people come out to the NAB or the meetings, no, don't speak to them? Oh,
No, the information is what they did was, people who get SNAP benefits, they moved up the date for the February SNAP benefits to come into the end, before the end of January.
Okay.
But if the people didn't recertify, they won't get the February, food stamp benefits, SNAP benefits.
Suppose it's not their certification time.
Well,
then
I called, I asked the lady, she told me they have, people receive the initial January SNAP benefits, right?
Okay.
And then they're supposed to get the February ones, like this week and next week. They started last Thursday. But if the person didn't recertify in time, they won't be eligible to receive their February SNAP benefits. So they need to contact their center to make sure that they're recertified, or else they will not have any February or maybe March or however long.
Right,
So they started last Thursday.
Right, the February benefits, the February benefits were given in January. No benefits are gonna be given in February. March is up in the air.
Okay.
That's
what I was told, but I thought it was February. Thank you for correcting me.
Thank you for the clarification. We're just about done. Candace, I know you had a question.
No, not a question, just on new business. I'm encouraging all my partners in government to host information sessions at their respective offices. I've been working with Anita, and we're having a NAD info session at Brooklyn Borough Hall next Tuesday, 6 o'clock. And what I did was I tapped the community board applicants. That's why digital forms are good. And it was thousands of applicants. We called, we verified addresses, and we have over 300 people, RSVP, to attend the info session next week. So that's a great resource to fill these vacancies. On our reappointment letters, on our, if someone resigned, we're giving them, different boards to apply to. So for my partners in government, tap your community boards to fill those NAP seats. That's it.
Great. Thank you, Candace, for that. Yes.
So, Michael Lambert from the Office of New York City Comptroller Scott Stringer. So starting Monday, in conjunction with the Food Bank of New York and with the Office of Manhattan Borough President Gail Brewer, we're going to actually be doing a food drive for anyone impacted by the shutdown. Any federal workers, all they have to do to come by and drop off any non-perishable food items over at room 512 at 1 Center Street. And that's going to be going on for a while. So
I appreciate that. Was that advertised somewhere? I thought I saw something about that.
We just started doing the outreach today.
Okay.
So it's quite possible, but yeah.
Okay, thank you for that.
Generally from 9 to 5.
So some good stuff happening in the community, and this is what this meeting is about again, especially for the new members. We want to share this information, and there's best practices that can happen throughout the entire city that we can pick up from other neighboring boroughs. Just a couple of things. Michelle will get that answer to your question, the financial question we have. I think Anita, you have that info. Michael, did we answer your question on the finances? Were you?
The one about the allocation percentage for the payments.
Okay. So that's gonna be helpful for the entire board. So I'm gonna make sure we get that info out to everyone. The March 19th training for the parliamentarian procedures, please, if you can, attend that meeting. We are gonna ask for a slate through the governance committee for those who want to fill that role. But if you're interested in what it's about and what it would entail, we ask that you attend the meeting. It should be interesting. We have the SYEP pamphlet, so we talked a lot about this. Please, let's start that outreach and get that information back to DYCD and myself regarding work sites that you think would be interested in hosting an intern. The Quorum Rules. So we talked a lot about this at the meetings. We've done a lot of great things, and under these new Quorum Rules, we've struggled a little bit in making quorum at these meetings. And I know, things come up. We all have other obligations. This is a volunteer board. But I really hate to see consistency in us not making quorum. All the things that we're doing, we don't want that little red mark to appear when the Department of State starts looking at our records and we're not voting on what we need to vote with. And meeting quorum is one of the standards. So again, to James Bernard, who has done a lot in the last 2 weeks to really focus on filling a lot of these seats. Hopefully when these elections happen, these seats will be filled, and we can move our way into making quorum, but please, let's just make these meetings. This is the third meeting since, the new quorum rules that we haven't made, quorum. Michael?
What's required for quorum?
23, so there's a 45-member board, we need 23 members or more to make quorum. Today, we had 22. Last meeting, I don't remember, we were off by 21. So we're off by 1 or 2.
Are there bylaws?
There are bylaws.
And what do the bylaws say about people not attending certain
No, we
meetings?
have that.
Is that in place?
So, and I don't want to keep people here. I think your question is, yes, there are bylaws and there are attendance rules and all of that is DYCD and Nita and the team, and they do a great job of keeping track of that. So let's just focus on really making the meeting. I'd like to see quorum in the next meeting. This is the third meeting since the new quorum, so we really don't want to continue with that. There's DYCD staff in the back. Are they still here? I know there's some members of DYCD. I want to acknowledge everyone. I don't know if everybody knows everybody. Anita, do you want to just quickly introduce who we have in the back there?
Carmelite Merritt, she's the Assistant General Counsel. I don't know if you can see her.
Okay.
Volker, who is the Executive Assistant to Sandy Gutierrez, the Deputy Commissioner, who does the beautiful PowerPoint. Booker, the cornerback. Booker? Oh. All right. And then we have our other staff outside, Karen, who runs the office. And she's waiting, come in here for a second. All right.
This is Primavera, right?
Vasquez.
Yes. Hi.
She's our new dynamo in the office. I think she's recruited like 100 people for the NAB in the month that she's been with us. So we're so lucky to have her. We appreciate her very much. Susan Patterson and Jorge Mendizábal. These are veterans who have been through thick and thin with 14 boards each to make sure everybody meets all over the city. So this is our staff, and James, of course, is the head of the unit. So,
Not that it matters. Jorge makes a mean cup of coffee. You drink it now, you'll be awake till tomorrow. I don't know what he puts in there. Look, he's pointing to it. There's more. I'm gonna take a pass. I want to sleep tonight. That's okay. I think we have one more, guys. Just give me one more quick question before. Oh, announcement. Okay. Just state your name.
Manhattan 10. I just wanted to announce that the Citizens Committee for Children of New York, Inc. is having an interactive forum on the census and undercounted youth. That's going to be next week, next month, February 6th, at FPWA on 40 Broad Street, 5th floor. It's from 8:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Breakfast at the beginning, so it's really 9 to 11:30. As you know, the youth is the most undercounted when it comes to the census, and it's going to be digital. So, if you know anyone.
And just the point, thank you for that. And just thinking in the spirit of a lot of the information that's shared, you can email DYCD as these events come up. We're all access to email. So, for those who, some of these events that may happen in between meetings and things of that nature, please share with us. We will share with the entire CAB for those that's interested, because that's extremely important. So we thank you for that. Thank you to our videographer, to our stenographer.
Oh, Molly, I forgot Molly.
Yes.
Sorry, Molly.
Always
I'm
here.
so quiet.
To our stenographer. Thank you again for the meeting. Let's make quorum next week, next meeting. Until the next time, everyone have a great evening.